Giacomo's. Sal, he's the man. Giacomo's Italian Market. We had him on the podcast. We're doing a pop-up together. I don't know if I've met anyone who as real as Sal. He hugs me every time I see him. I love Sal. And you know what else I love about him? His food. His food is fantastic. It's an Italian Market right over there on College Hill. He's got sausages. He's got his own soda now. There's pasta, there's the rice balls. There is so much stuff over there that is just unique and special. And then you got the menu. The breakfast sandwich I was lucky enough to have, that's killer. The sausage sandwich is killer. The sausage itself is killer. The cheesesteak is killer. Giacomo's is such a unique thing to this area, and I'm so happy it's like 10 minutes from the studio. But Giacomo's, man, they are on... 700 Cattell Street in Easton, College Hill, and you can go to giacomositalianmarket.com. I cannot wait to do more things with him. I'm selling his sausage sandwich called the G-Spot. We're doing that on our pop-ups. So that is Giacomo's Italian Market. Please go check them out. Love them to death. They are a new sponsor, and thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Mindleaf CBD. I'm a lot calmer with this read. You know why? Because I'm using these products from Mindleaf. Liz came on the show multiple times. Awesome story on how she got into this. They are making all their products. We got the barbecue pretzels. The pretzels are fire. The tinctures, those are my big thing that I use. I go to sleep with those. The tinctures knock this groundhog out every time I go to bed. The CBD gummies are great, and the Delta 8s. The Delta 8s are fantastic. They'll put you on the moon. I enjoy that. Seriously though, this is a fantastic CBD product. I stand behind it. I got to use all of their stuff, and it is 100% the go-to thing I use now for joint pain, for going to sleep. The snacks are awesome as well. It's just an added bonus. I'll go over to the store and pick those up. Liz is one of a kind. You can follow their social media, Mindleaf CBD, and then it's mindleafcbd.com that you can order all their stuff online. So if you're not local to the area, if you are local, I suggest you go over to the shop. They have a really cool shop over on College Hill. It's actually close to Giacomo's, which is another sponsor. But that's Mindleaf CBD. Get your tinctures, get your Delta 8s, get your gummies, get all of your CBD needs from Mindleaf. We're doing pop-ups and things together as well. So follow their social media. We are connecting them into the network. So go support them because they support me. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. fiveanddimeeaston.com. They have their website officially up. You can shop most of their stuff online. They also have Fucked. They have Fucked in the store. I think they're the only one allowed to sell Fucked out of their store. It's 484-544-4719. That's at Five and Dime Easton on social media. These guys are great. I mean, they're killing it. It's the best skate shop, in my opinion, in the area. They have a lot of cool stuff there. Both the owners are rad. I stop in when I can. They're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sunday, 11 to 5. There is someone always there to help you out with your needs. You can check their inventory off the website. You can check out some videos they got on there, and they're doing some cool things. Their social media is awesome. They support a lot of local skaters in the area, and they're growing. I'm excited to be a part of them growing. I'm excited to help them out. They're helping me out. It's a good relationship, and I push Five and Dime Easton because they're the best skate shop in the area. Check them out. Eric K. Dowdle, defense attorney. We had him on the show, and what crazy stories this guy's had. He's helped a ton of people over the years, and if you're looking for help, he is your guy. You can contact them at 610-882-3000, and it's ekdefense.com. Do you have a pending court case? Do you have a court appearance and need a defense lawyer? Do you need proper representation? Felony, misdemeanor, drug offense, assault, homicide, DUI, traffic violation, appeals. Reach out to Eric. Check out the podcast we did with him as well. It has his whole story on there. If you need help, Eric is here to help you. He sponsors the show. We appreciate it. He's going to be doing a monthly thing with us. Eric will be a part of the family now. Thank you for sponsoring. I can't wait to have more space to decorate. I'm excited.
Oh, sure. Yeah, man. I'm excited to see it. So, the comedy show, that's going to happen before you're out of here. When are you out of here? You don't know yet? Is it like open end?
Yeah. Well, we'll just do a rolling start, so this will just be in it. We're hoping to have everything done I just say July just because that's so far out. I'm hoping that's enough time, but it'll be this year once everything's going. But the comedy thing that we want to do, that'll be, I think we're pushing for April 9th, which is like the second Saturday. We kind of had a meeting about it and everything kind of is working. And then everybody on board was like, you know, we can do this. I think it'll be easier to do. Like it's easy to do that as opposed to like moving the studio. So there's things that I've always wanted to do down here since I got down here. And one of them I've always pictured doing comedy in that empty space. So we're going to finally do it. So it's exciting. And I want to kind of grow that avenue to do more comedy at the next spot once it's kind of set up.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that's really cool. I really enjoy the comedy scene. Since I've seen you last, I did a lot with Secret Show comedy out of Connecticut. They got a bunch of pop-ups and stuff, monthly shows, they were doing through COVID, lockdown and stuff. And now they're like in clubs in New York City, Connecticut, big headliners really doing it good. They just did, they were involved with Gino Piscani's roast from Compound Media. Yeah. And, it was really cool to, see that. I was supposed to go, but I ended up, I was sick that day with my tooth, so I couldn't go.
We were just talking about how awful tooth stuff is.
Tooth stuff. Yeah. And they're my money makers, man. I need my teeth, so.
Yeah. What have you been doing since you left? You went on tour, I believe, and then, because I think we were getting into it. It was like the Easy Cheese thing you did. And then did you do Nathan's after you left here, or what was the timeline of when you, because I know you were doing like the travel stuff and we're doing like the which is my favorite thing you do when you throw down at restaurants.
Oh yeah.
And they have no clue who you are. Those are my favorite things. I've watched a couple of they're fun to watch on YouTube as well. Like I subscribe to the channel.
Well,
and, like,
thank you.
At night, I usually get into YouTube like it's TV, so I'll watch like Kill Tony and all this other stuff.
Oh, sure.
So it's turning into what I watch for TV. So the one night I was just going through and I stopped and I was like, I'll go through his stuff. And I ended up watching like 5 in a row. Like it's good content and it keeps you watching. It's very interesting to watch someone tackle the restaurant challenges.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just got, last time when I was here, we just got back from the Super Bowl from doing the Easy Cheese chug off, and then I was heading back to Florida for sweet corn, and super stoked. I finished like 4th overall.
How do they do the sweet corn? Do you have to shuck it?
It's already shucked. It's boiled. It's ready to go. It's cooled down.
Was it actually good?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of the best. It's a huge sweet corn Florida.
Yeah.
Event. I didn't realize there were so many hillbillies or farmers in Florida, but it's a huge event. It's been going on for 20 plus years, and they have shucking contest, and like there's families that show up and they win all the time, like the same families, they're just top dogs, but then they bring us in to eat it, and it's a fun fun contest.
What location do they do it at? Like on a farm?
It's
That's where I'm picturing it.
You would think it's at a farm, but
like
it's
Field of Dreams.
What is it? It's Palm Beach. It's at the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, great time. Like I took Lupita with me. She was out on stage.
This is my first time meeting.
Yeah. She's just chilling. But like, the crowd went crazy because I actually ate on stage with her. It's the first time she ever was on stage with me in a contest.
Did you have her how you have her now?
Yep. Just in the sling. She was kind of pushed behind me a little bit, like on my hip. So I could eat, and I could eat a steak in front of her and she won't do nothing. Like, it's just, she's a good dog. And but even the competitors, I asked everyone in the meeting before, I said, hey, it's cool if my dog goes on stage with me, and they're like, yeah, we don't care. And like, Guinean won the last couple of years, and he's like, I really think she's going to hinder you, Chigger. Like, you don't need to take her on stage. Like, I'm like, nah, dude, I'm good, and but the crowd loved her. And then when I went out to get my trophy, like I picked her up in the trophy, and the crowd went crazy, so she's a crowd favorite now.
That's cool.
Yeah. But man, like, I mean, coming back from that trip, I hit some food stops, 7-pound lobster roll, 6-pound steak, just crushing stuff, and those videos are on my YouTube channel. And, I've been out to Texas a couple times.
How many was the lobster roll?
It was 7 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was.
What was the challenge?
It's like a 2-foot hoagie roll.
Yeah.
So it's 7 normal lobster rolls. It's like 5 pounds of of lobster in the roll, pound of fries.
The fries, they always get you.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it wasn't horrible. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
a small order of fries, and I think there was a like a 8-ounce cup of coleslaw or something, and you had an hour to eat it. And the record was like 40 some minutes, and I had it done in like 17 or something.
Oh my God.
I just killed it. And
Now, was that for cash that time?
it was just free lobster roll.
Yeah.
It's like a $150 challenge if
yeah,
you lose.
but it's content on top of it.
100% content.
Yeah.
Great time. They brought the CEO of the company down. He's like, I guess it's a chain.
Yeah.
And they were really like just stoked that I showed
That's
up.
huge
They're like,
networking as well.
most definitely, yeah, because Randy Santel had the original record. I think they kind of put it together for him to do it. And when I finished it, when they started bringing people from the corporate office because it's down the street, and they're like, "What do you need? What do you want?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just next time, like, when I get to 1 million followers, let me, pay me to come back and do the next challenge." And they're like, "Oh, we'll pay you triple what we paid him." And I'm like, "All right, cool."
Yeah.
So it is all about networking and meeting people. And
Well, we were talking before the show, like when you build a base off of what you're doing around your lifestyle, you start realizing that some things you do for content, not money, but like you know what I mean? Like a lot of stuff I do now where I look at it was like, even when like we'll do food stuff sometimes and I won't sell out or make the money I would want, I was like, oh, well, I met somebody and I have a ton of content for social media. So when you're building a brand like that, it's always, I don't know. I always look at things like how we were talking about, like if I go on vacation now, it's like, well, I can work. It gives you a wild freedom of like, well, just because I'm not going to get paid to do that, all right, well, I'm going to get a YouTube video. I'm building my YouTube out of it. Like there's plenty of pockets, and that freedom's, it's pretty cool to have.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's what I'm changing this all into. Like, competitive eating is taking me all over the country. It's taking me in Canada, and everyone to Canada before.
That's crazy.
And like, 2020, I was supposed to go to Japan. I was supposed to go to Scotland, but things change. I get it. But, last year, driving out to Texas, I flew into Texas. I went out to Vegas for compound media gathering out there. And then I have a competitive eater friend out there. So I stayed with him, Heavy D, and we filmed every day at his house.
Is that where you did the soda chug? Who did you do the soda chug with?
Oh, Badlands Chugs.
Yeah. That was one of the ones I watched.
Yeah, I chug with him all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if which one you're going to, because like we constantly do stuff. I hung out with him and Dame Drops. Another big social media guy. He's Rachel Ray's food correspondent guy, and he has a lot of stuff going on. But like we were in Buffalo, New York for wings, and I ended up filming with Dame Drops and Badlands Chugs. Like we did his 3 million subscriber for YouTube. He chugged on Niagara Falls. So like we went out to Niagara Falls at like 7:00 in the morning and filmed. It was great. And then hang out with Dame Drops. We were doing reviews of the Anchor Bar and wings and stuff. I'm like, hey, can I just tag along? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'll sit over here. And they're like, no, sit at the table with us. And I'm
That's
like,
cool.
Okay. But, hang out with those guys for the weekend. It was great. I met so many great people everywhere I go. It's networking, right? So we're up there and I met the chicken dipper. It's it's a dish to dip your chicken wings in instead of a round dish. It's an oval dish, and I'm going to I use one for an ashtray, right? I got a stainless steel one. I got to show you because these guys, they're my new sponsor out of Texas, the Chicken Dipper.
Yeah.
Right. So these are some clear ones, but like you take your chicken wing instead of like just dipping it straight in, you could lay it in.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm the sales rep for Northeast.
Little boats.
Yeah. I'm getting them. We're going to have them all over the Pennsylvania area, East Coast.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm working with,
So you put that together by just running into that guy out of the compound thing?
No, I met him at a chicken wing eating contest in, Buffalo, but that's the thing though. Like, it's just everything I do, I meet people, right?
Yeah.
Like, Badlands Chugs, he's working with, he got me with his merch guy. And, so I got the merch guy, and then, I hang out with the pizza group guys on Wednesdays and smoke cigars and drink, bourbon. And that got me my website. That got me another, pizza shop sponsor. And, so I have, Caddy Corner in, Kanasakwa. I always mess that one up. As soon as I said it, I know I said it, Caddy. But those guys are awesome. They've been with me for a year now. I love them. They love me. I've done hot dog practices over there. I know I'm all over the place today, but
Dude, you're matching my brain.
Oh man, just so much since I've seen you last. And then Biagio's, he's in the top 100 or the top 90 pizza shops in the country. They sponsored several trips for me this year, like getting back to going to Vegas with Compound Media. At the same time, there was a burrito eating contest in a challenge, not a contest, a challenge in Texas. And it was a progressive jackpot. If you could eat this burrito, in less than 3 minutes, it's free. If you could eat it and, beat the record at the time, it was like 1 minute and 31 seconds. If you beat the record, you win, $2,500. And, when I was out there, I'm like, man, I really want to go do this, attempt this. So I flew into Vegas. I wasn't there 24 hours. I flew out of Vegas to Texas. I was in Texas for 12 hours to attempt this challenge. And I flew back to Vegas for a week. And it's just crazy how I'm just networking and getting it all done. And, enter.net, came on and built me my webpage, and they helped sponsor that trip to get to Texas out of Vegas. And, Biagio's over on Cedar Crest, North Cedar Crest, they helped me out, all through, the season. So it's just really great networking, and building the sponsors and the brands. And like you said,
none of that stuff's easy to do.
No. But I could talk. I think, people like me because I could talk. I'm a, easygoing guy. I have a personality, I guess. Right. So, and what I'm doing is unique, and it's just not everything. I mean, it's, to network with I was at a cigar shop, and that's how I met the owner of Protocol. And that's, why they sponsor me now, because I went on his podcast and they're like, oh, we really like you. And then, they're just on board, man. Like, I do a lot of their podcast stuff, and they have, Facebook groups I'm involved with. It's insane. I'm just like, I'm in my head, I'm just running right now. So, but it's just, you sit down and talk to somebody, and it's like you said, it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about the content or, the experience. And that's where I've been forever. Like I did a bachelorette party, last season after 4th of July, I ended up meeting.
How did that come up?
I was at a cigar event, and, the ladies were talking to, one of my buddies, and it's like, oh, we're having a hot dog themed bachelorette party. It's a joke between all the girls. We buy each other hot dogs for like gifts and, all this stuff, so we're going to do a hot dog contest and blah, blah, blah. My buddy's like, you know who's here? And they're like, who? And it's like, well, Chigger's here. He's the, Nathan's guy. He eats the hot dogs at Nathan's. He's upstairs. You should go talk to him. And they came up and they're like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. Can you come judge the contest? And I'm like, sure, I'll come judge a contest. When is it? And they're like, okay. I'm like, let's pencil it in and see if this is going to work. And it was the week after 4th of July, this past year. So it kind of worked out. My schedule was free because, I was supposed to go on a cruise, but that got canceled because of everything. So I'm like, this is awesome. Let's make this happen. And I rolled in, I had my whole getup on, and I had, we were sponsored by Bounty this year, so we got these Bounty robes and crap.
I saw Bounty on your shoulders there.
I had this robe on, and I answered the door, and they, the girls knew I was coming, but the bride to be didn't have no idea. Right. So, I get to the house, ring the doorbell. She answers the door. She's like, hey, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the bachelorette party. And like, you see, like, there's a dozen girls in the background. They're all, got the cameras out. And she's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think you got the right house. And I'm like, really? You don't think I have the right? I mean, this kind of looks like a bachelorette party. And she's like, well, who are you? And I'm like, well, I'm the stripper. And she's like, oh. And I'm like, were you going to let me in? And she's like, I guess, So I had my bag of stuff, and I walk in, and I'm like, I go to take my robe off, and I'm like, nah, I'm George Chigger, ranked 15th in the world. I'm here to eat hot dogs. And she just lost her shit. Like,
I'm here to eat hot dogs.
Yeah. And she just started, oh my God. So we had like a Q&A for like an hour. And I ran through like, 30 plus hot dogs in like 8 minutes or whatever, and the girls were like, crazy about it. Then they had like a little hot dog eating contest and,
what a blast.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was like, it was personal. We were in the backyard on the deck, and then I sat down and had dinner with them and, drank a little bit, and it's like, all right, ladies, have a good time. I'm out,
Yeah.
So I'm, as Gino says, who else is doing bachelorette parties, competitive eating. So I'm not scared to work. I'm willing to do anything. I was supposed to do a birthday party last month, but that was canceled because of all the crap going on, so, appearances, grand openings, whatever's out there. I mean, I'm going to show up and do.
It's pretty crazy how much you've grown this from just kind of picking it up and getting into it from the last time we talked till now, where it's like it seems to be on a whole nother level, and I don't see you stopping anytime soon with it. But it's pretty impressive how much it's actually growing from you just networking and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I think sometimes people don't realize that, like, when you want something, nothing's really ever handed to you. And if you want sponsors and things like that, like, you have to uncomfortably force yourself to start that conversation. And usually it's not as bad as you think it's going to go. And then sometimes it's like people are like, oh yeah, that would be great to work with you.
Oh,
and then you just kind of like literally like going up rungs of a ladder, and then you just kind of keep pushing it. And then when you get to a point where you know how to do it, then it just kind of becomes that's what you do for a living, and that's what you do now. And then you just kind of keep growing it from there.
That's the goal. I mean, I never thought I would take it to this level, but with the traveling, there's no other way to travel. If someone's paying for you to travel, it's the best way to travel.
Yeah.
Right. And, to see the country, I know I zigzag a lot. I don't stop as much as I should. And that's where now I want to be able to stop and like, okay, I'm going to go to Florida for the month, not just for the week. And then, so I'm trying to get all those logistics together, and, I'm looking at getting a bigger vehicle to, I could, be more comfortable when I'm traveling and stay out longer, on the road. But yeah, I never thought I would be doing this because it started off as a hobby, helping my mentor, as a sparring partner. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is fun. I go hit a hot dog, qualifier here or there. Now it's like, if there's a contest every weekend, I want to be in it, and be able to eat my way there and eat my way home like I've been doing, but just make it, longer and, more sustainable. And, the sponsors getting on board with me. Building my website really helped a lot. And, now I have sponsors on my website. You go look outside the studio window right now, you see my car. I got sponsor stickers all over it. I got chiggereats.com on it, in 4-foot letters. And it's just, life is changing. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I'm glad that the world's, getting back to some type of normalcy compared to what we
after
had.
The Super Bowl. We're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like,
I watched that and I leaned over to my friend and was like, this is all over. I guess we're back to normal.
Yeah, it pretty much is, right? Like, everything's changing now. Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So true. And at first I didn't think they were going to even have the Super Bowl there.
It's crazy if you look at it from either side that you think that anyone's going to be on board to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, there's too many people.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was last year, the year, I go, these are all just going to be gone. Like, and then, now it's like Joe Rogan last week, Kanye this week. No one's even talking about anything anymore. Throw Russia in there. Cool. We're back to normal. Like, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Definitely. What's next week?
I don't want to know.
I don't either.
I just like that, people like yourself or, myself where like you want to travel and you want to build your brand out more. And, I had plans of things I wanted to do before everything stopped. And now it's just like, cool. Like, I want to get back. I don't want to be nervous about opening a food spot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's things that are holding me back, and we're not holding me back, but like, makes you think about stuff. But I love the idea of you getting on the road, and I like seeing your lives, and you're very consistent with keeping up with everything, and doing all the different podcasts and getting tied up with Compound Media and stuff like that, and staying on top of it, or like the fact that you'll drive 3-4 hours just to do a show and come home. Like, that's the sacrifice that I think a lot of people don't look at as well, where it's like, dude, like, I'm making moves. I'm going, it's content. Plus it would be just a blast to go hang out with them, let alone, it's on a network and you're going to get views on you. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to, you've really taken the idea of what you're doing and just like you're really just like, you don't stop with it. This is my favorite part about it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying, and sometimes like wintertime, I start hibernating a little bit, December through January, because that's our off season. I kind of disappear from social media, but right now I'm getting ramped up for everything in April, and we have some compound media shows coming up in March, and they just even Secret Show stuff. Like I've been doing, I do food stunts with the Secret Show, at their comedy shows, and the fans love me, and it's like I never. It's just another network. Another cigar people. I got cigar people that love me, and then I'm doing comedian stuff, and those their fans love me, and it's just food is kind of across the boards.
Yeah,
right?
and what's really cool is that when you start actually finding those pockets, you realize that there's these little worlds of people that are like really into that. Like when I did the cigars, what's that down there? Cigars International on 191.
Yep.
When I did their pop-up, I didn't know people were into cigars like that.
Oh, it's
and
crazy.
then it was like they have like this whole thing, and like I would like to actually reach back out to them because I know they were trying to do events, but like that whole world, like people like waiting to get tickets to go to the festival or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And then when I came out of that, then like I'll go over here, and like what started all the food stuff was me messing around with pop-up people. Like Angelo had his store in Wyckoff, New Jersey, and then like I started following him, and then when Local Stone was doing his pizzas out of the house, I was like, oh wow, now there's this whole thing. But like if you pay attention to these little bubbles and then you go in and out of them and people enjoy you and enjoy your content, it's a fantastic way to build everything 10 times faster because you're networking through these pockets of people. Like I just had a guy on who's like in the VHS world, like started out with VHS collecting, but then he made a hot sauce and the hot sauce took off. And I think he placed second in the hot ones thing. So like, and then now that guy does food, but like we connect on the food level, but then I'm interested in his VHS stuff, but then I'm like, that's a whole pocket. So like, it's crazy to find these little worlds that people live in that like it's their hobbies.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's, the hobbies, that's what this kind of started off as. A lot of the eaters are, it's hobbies. And there's really, only a couple guys that are making big money, a decent living at eating. And, it's the top eaters in the world, Joey Chestnut, and, Randy Santel, he's done over 1,000 food challenges. He's been all over the world eating, and he's like the godfather of YouTube competitive eating. But it's all about the networking. And you never think like, oh, I'm going to go to a cigar shop today and then I'll meet a podcaster or vice versa. Or, I'm in Vegas and I'm hanging out with comedians and, just meeting the fans and, oh, this guy's the merch guy and that guy's this guy. And, oh, that's the lawyer. And, you just network. I can't believe, I'm out and about and I get lawyers give me cards all the time. They're like, oh, you're under contract with anybody, you want to talk, and it's like, all right, we'll talk. So it's that's what it's about. It's all about networking. It's all about traveling and just growing my brand. And, and even, I got the number one brand guy, MC rebranding me for, Nathan's, I'm the Red Horse of Death now, I'm no longer the Smorgasbord. I'm the Red Horse of Death.
I like the Red Horse of Death. Yeah. That's a great t-shirt.
Oh, it's awesome. And the whole opening, it's so dark and deep, George Shea really does a great job with the writing and everything. And I'm honored that he took the time to.
So that's somebody from Nathan's?
Yeah. He's the guy with the boater's hat, does the emceeing, from Nathan's.
So he's kind of like now building and branding you as a character to kind of introduce, which the Red Horse of Death, is that what he wants to go with?
Yeah, the Red Horse of Death.
That's way, like, especially with like how tall you are and like coming out. I want to see the clip. That's cool that he even is expressing interest in that. But that's what I'm saying is like you're putting yourself out there and like you created your stuff enough to be appealing for somebody to notice even, hey, he is somebody that is marketable and all that. If you were just off in the corner not doing any of your stuff or thinking that your ideas wouldn't work, you wouldn't have the aura of somebody being like, you know what, we could change this, that, and that. Now this guy's marketable. Let's get him, you know what I mean? Like that's not easy to do, but you crush doing that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, and for him to come out and to put the intro together and stuff, and like, we had a meeting about it, a couple times prior. It's awesome. The clips on their YouTube channel, Major League Eating YouTube channel, you can find it. Just you can type in George Chigger, it pops up. but it's just awesome. And, and we're going to grow it on it. We're going to, keep growing on that persona with, George, introducing me and, the Red Horse of Death. And, this year, I think at Nathan's.
It's very WWF.
Oh, totally. Well, one of their wives, I don't know if it's his brother or his wife, they one of the wives write for WW.
Awesome.
So, they're all about that, story. And they're trying to tell a story, trying to entertain the public and stuff. So I'm going to work on it better with props this year. If the beard's growing out a little bit, we had a meeting when we were in Buffalo at the, wing eating contest. George was like, yeah, you should walk out with like a 5-foot double-bladed sword over your shoulder or something. And I'm like, well, how about a kilt and some, Viking battle axes? And he's like, do it. Just do it. And then Badlands is like, you got to braid the beard and, just get it all, the Viking look. And
put the dog in like a plaid satchel.
Oh man, I wish they're so hard on me. Sometimes like she did one contest with me, but like it's hard. Dogs and food and TV rights and all that stuff. But there were some signs in the crowd. Let Lupita eat. You know, so
that's so cool.
Yeah. But man, I just been bouncing all over the place. It's crazy. I mean, the YouTube channel has a bunch of content from last year. My editor's works hard at his full-time job, and then he really helps me out getting my stuff together. I really got to get off my butt and start playing more with some editing. I've been trying to do more, little better with my filming, instead of just turning the camera on and let it run for the hour that I'm in the restaurant, I try to stop and start. And, I'm learning tricks how to do that, make it easier, sound, lighting, all that fun stuff. But a big go-to is when I'm driving, I go live in the car and, talk to the fans, interact, and just tell you guys where I'm at, where I've been, where I'm going.
Passes the time as well.
Oh, man, I spend so much time in the car. We went out to Texas to the F1 race to eat Spam this last year.
I love Spam.
Yeah,
a lot of
Spam's
people
a good
give me
time.
shit about Spam.
Yeah, it's a delicacy, I grew up on it. California, it's a breakfast meat,
Yeah, well, that's where I always ate it because my dad, he would make us like shit on a shingle, or like my mom would be at work and be like, you're getting Spam. And then when I started getting to cooking, it was the dude from Egg Slut, Alvin. He does a sandwich, an egg slut sandwich that's like out Cali, Vegas, and it's Spam.
Okay.
And it's on a King's Hawaiian bun with an egg, and it's really, really good if made correctly. It's got like a mayonnaise base for the sauce, but then I was like, Spam's like a legit thing that you can make like gangster sandwiches with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How did they prepare it for you to eat that?
Just slopped it out of the can. It was just big cubes of it. I ate 7.5 cans in the 8-minute contest, and I think Jeff ate like 13 or 14 cans. It was really crazy. I think fourth place or something, 4th or 5th place I finished. It was rough.
Yeah.
It was one of the roughest contests I've ever had.
Yeah.
Eating. But to get there was hard, right? So like, working with my sponsors and stuff, I have a, number figure in my head that I need to meet to be able to travel. Like, okay, I'm going to Texas for the week. I need X amount of dollars, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't quite there, and I'm like, man, maybe I'll just fly out instead of driving out. So I reach out to Badlands Booker, Badlands Chugs. And I said, man, what's your flight? What's your schedule? I'm going to fly out, and maybe can we split a rental car or whatever? And he's like, Chigger, there ain't no rental cars, man. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I can't get a rental car. And I'm like, well, I'm short. I can't afford to drive out. And he's like, well, I'll pay the difference. Just pick me up at the airport.
Nice.
So now he's on my webpage as a new sponsor, Badlands Chugs merch. I mean, but that's what this is all about. We stayed at another eater's house in Texas. It's just amazing, how kind people can be, and how you meet people in this world, with competitive eating. And then, last time I was on, we were talking about the, Honest Trav's Virtual Dive Bar Facebook group. I have some lifetime long friends now because of that group. And every time I pass through Nashville, I stop at the Rock and Roll Wood Shop and hang out with, Hubie And, you know, he's like, yeah, your room's made up, you know, you could crash there. And it's like, I don't know. Me and Lupita, I think we're in the top 5 people who've been there. I'm number 1 and she's like top 4. But she hasn't made every trip with me, but he has a leaders board who's been there the most, you know? And it's just really cool. Every time I'm passing through, I stop and, you know, have a couple beers and hang out and go to dinner and move on.
I like that aspect of traveling better than just getting a hotel, or like even like the Airbnb appeals to me more than just getting a hotel. It's kind of like breaks the mold or the thought of like how it's going to be. But like when you get to like stop at somebody's house, it like makes the journey more like, I don't know. It's not just like fly, hotel, there. Like you're stopping at someone's house, you're interacting with them, you're catching up with a friend, you're going out to eat. Like that aspect of it, I think, is way better than if you would have just cookie cut the whole thing, and then it would feel like a job. You know what I mean?
Right,
like
definitely.
You're there for business.
It's like vacation.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, oh, I got to go work for 10 minutes, but man, we're going to hang out and have a good time.
Yeah.
Like Buffalo, New York. I was up there for four or 5 days this past trip, you know, last September, and I met some fans, and I'm like, hey, you know, you were talking about my lives. I go live all the time, and you know, Joey Chestnut's like, you got the best live of our events, you know, hands down, you do it better than, you know, anyone else. And all I do is hand my phone to someone in the crowd. And it's like, hey, do you mind holding this for the next hour?
Yeah.
You know, and I met some great people and, you know, podcasters. And now it just networks, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm up there for 2 days. It's like, hey, come to the barbecue tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So I go to a barbecue. I meet the whole podcast crew and everything. And it just keeps rolling. So now next year, it's like, I'm going to go up and I'm just going to stay with them. Like, you know, I have friends forever. It's really crazy because you think how shitty the world is and everything going on, but there's so much good out there, you know, and you just have to be open-minded to interact with people. You can't be scared to travel and do things and, you know, and just jump in the car and go. Like, I mean,
if you really come out of your comfort zone, it's what appealed to me, and I'll do it eventually. Like this year, I want to go on a long format hike. Even hiking, we ran into somebody on the Appalachian Trail, and like I think next time I would sit them down and like put my phone. So I was with my friend Aquila, and she was like, "You should have did a podcast with that guy, even if it would have just been 30, like setting my phone up, or like me bringing a rig in case I run into somebody on the Appalachian." But like I went out there, and like, you know, I could have walked right by that guy, but Aquila's super personable, so she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "I've been on this." I think he was out for 3 months. He's been in the mountains. So, like, you know, like those people are incredible to run into as long as they don't hit you with a hatchet. But like,
sure. What's he running from? You know, you know,
believe me, that was all running through my head. She's like, "Hi." I'm like, "Oh my God." But you know, after we talked to him, he was telling us his whole journey, and he was from Virginia and he was dropped off somewhere and was on his way back. And I could tell he was so thankful to even talk to somebody because he was just out there. He was with another guy. The other guy fell and like injured something that like wasn't a bad injury, but it slowed them down from like getting to their destination, you know, because when you start thinking about it, that's months. So if you get slowed down, you're going to start running into different weather. And then I was like, holy shit, you're like out here. So like when you run into people like that and talk to people, like it's my favorite thing about doing this. It's like everybody's got a story. You start talking to people and other people are trying to do things. And there are a shitload of nice people out there that you can make connections and whatnot. But like with the van, like, I definitely want to like at least do it one time where like I can go out, I can stay in the van, I can go to a national park, I can go hiking all day. And like, I'm like if you really take off the horse blinders of like how people are raised and you're just supposed to go to a job and punch in and punch out and buy a home and get married and have kids, and like if you start like looking at other things, and it's better now because everyone's connected and you can watch people do it, but it's like, oh, I can go get content, and which is my job now, and then stay at a national park which also has showers and things if you find the right one, then go hiking for 2 or 3 days and get full content, live out of my van, run into other people doing that, change my perspective on life, and then return. Like, why wouldn't, like, to me sometimes it's crazy how people are so stuck in punch in, punch out, punch in, punch out, go home, wait, I have to wait till I'm retired to enjoy life.
Well, that's what we were taught, right? I mean, that's
weird.
That's, you know, I watched my father kill himself working. He averaged 2,000 hours a year, you know, in overtime. So that's, he worked 2 full-time jobs at one job.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know him growing up because he was out of the house before I got up in the morning when I was a kid, and he came home after I was asleep, but I had a great life because of everything he did. He worked for it, you know, and I owe him everything for that, and his work ethic, teaching me and showing me what to do. But he retired at 43 years old, had a heart attack and had to get retired. So he retired early. I was still a kid, so I got like my teenager years with him. But he 60 years old, done. So I mean, he got a couple years retired, but not really.
Well, I look at my parents now, like my dad had a heart attack and had to stop working when I was probably about 15, 16. So like my mom, it was always hard on her to carry the load of the family with one job. And then now where they're at now, where they're finally retired, like they're not, it's not easy for them to drive to Florida like it used to be when they wanted to do it. So then now that's like hanging in my head where I'm like, one, you don't know when you're going to go. And two, I don't want to be 72 and be like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing anything anymore. And then now I just worked to 72 and then didn't do anything because I'm tired. Like you know what I mean? Like I watch them and like they'll go to the store and come home and be like, oh man, we're just going to relax now. And I'm like, well, like they wanted to go on a train trip. And my dad's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, it's a project to get in the car. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like, my vision's going. He's like, I don't want to deal with people. And then I'm like, oh man, like I want to do that in my 50s, not 70s where you don't care.
I don't even think I'm going to make it to 70. So
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I'm not planning for anything, but, watching my parents and everything. And I guess we have a similar, our parents getting sick when we were young, and it changes everything. Right. And that caused me to go work when I was 12 years old when my dad retired. I had a full-time job as soon as I could start working and going in high school. And so I've been working, I think extra long, longer than most, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not tuning my horn or anything, but I've been hustling and I'm still hustling, but I'm okay not, I do miss the big paychecks and stuff, but I'm okay with a little less in life. And, maybe I don't get to eat the steak dinner tonight. I have to eat the, Chinese food or something, I got to change it up. That's why I'm a competitive eater. I love eating for free. Right. So I go out and get all the free food, but it's just changed my outcome in life. Like, when, 20 years ago when I was in line work, making six figures a year in my early 20s, back then it was whoever had the most toys and the best looking girl won. I got the best looking girl right here, and I'm living my best life. Like, I'm on, 200-foot yachts, 30-foot boats, I'm living, staying in, $1 million brownstones. I'm sleeping in my car. I'm doing, whatever I have to do it, but I'm enjoying life.
Yeah.
And I had a friend join me. We went out to Louisiana for big Fat Boys Pizza, 2-foot slices of pizza, 16 inches wide. I mean, just huge pizza contest down there. And she hit the road with me, and like we stopped with my friend's house. We saw Hubie, we did different things, and like, they're still messed up from the last hurricane they had. We couldn't find a hotel room down there, so we ended up sleeping in the rest area, and she never experienced that, but I sleep in a rest area all the time. I could stop, take a couple hour nap. It's the first time I had someone knock on my door and window at 4:00 in the morning, screaming, hollering, crying, my husband's trying to kill me and shit. And I was like,
what?
Yeah, this lady's like,
tell that story. You can't brush on that.
Oh man. It was, I mean, it's really not much. I mean, we were driving and it's like, stressed out, trying to find a hotel room to crash. Couldn't find anywhere. I mean, I drove for hours trying to find a hotel room down outside of New Orleans. And I'm like, finally, screw it. Let's get on the road. And we drove out of Louisiana. I said, rest area, Mississippi. Let's stop. Parked. I'm sleeping like a rock star, man. I'm like, I'm out.
Do you leave the air on? Do you have to have a little bit of noise on? How do you fall asleep?
The car's running, the air is on. I got the radio on a little bit, comfortable, man. I got, auto climate control, it's 69 in the car at all times.
Absolutely.
So I hear this knock, and my friend goes, George, there's someone at the window. And like, she's all bundled up. Like, she's scared shitless. Someone's knocked down the...
Still pretending to be asleep.
Yeah. She's like, there's someone outside the car. And I'm like, what? And then like, when you wake me up, don't be near me, because I'll swing. I've hit nurses in the hospital, pushed doctors off me, because I'm woken up and you're in my area, we got problems. Right. And
you got long arms.
Oh yeah. And this one, she's my guard dog. So she's going ape shit. I call it the murder bark, man. It's just the highest squeal. It sounds like a child screaming. It's just crazy. And So, I hear this knock. I roll down the window. And she's just standing there. I see her truck, and she's like, "Oh, help me out! My husband's beating me. I'm running away from my husband." And I'm like, "Fuck you! Get out of here!" I'm like, I'm screaming, and she's screaming, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Just get the hell away from us!" And I rolled up the window and just rolled over and went back to sleep. And my friend's like, God. "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I gotta sleep. I just went to sleep." Even when we pulled into the rest area. I'm like, all right, it's time to go to bed. And I put the car, set everything up. I'm like, okay. And I was asleep. She's like, it took me like an hour to fall asleep. I couldn't believe you just went to sleep. And I'm like, it was time to sleep.
Did she stay up or find out what was going on with that woman?
She couldn't, she's like, there's a guard shack down, the little ways down. And, but the lady just got in her truck and drove away. Like, I don't know if they were like maybe trying to siphon our gas out of the car or something.
Yeah, you never know.
Trying to distract us. I just started screaming, hollering, and, the lady just went away, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then, she's like, I can't go back to sleep. And I'm like, I got to go back to sleep. And a couple hours later, got up, hey, let's go get breakfast,
She's just like, I'm still awake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's like, I'll never be able to go to sleep in a rest area like that ever. I can't believe we stopped. And I'm like, I do this all the time. It's okay, Lupita.
That was the art.
The artwork. The artwork is on sale today at Never Again Studios. That's flying off the shelves, off the wall. It's out of there.
Yeah, it sucks down here. The only way to get fresh air is to open everything up, and then it causes the draft and then the wind. Windows. Everyone's like, what's going to be in the new studio? I'm like, a window, a window to open and close and have light and not live in a dark basement. That's crazy though. I love the appeal of that. Some people aren't into like the travel and the adventure, and I'm sure it gets old after a while, but just doing it, it's just fun. Like even we went to Connecticut to test the oven, and it's a 3-hour drive, and I'm like, all right, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, it's 3 hours. So then I was like, well, let's find coffee and pizza while we're there. So we went up, tested out the bagel oven, which, I wasn't going to spend money on something that I never used like that. It's not, so we went out there, and then I was like, oh, cool. And then me and Gina went and found the pizza place, but there was a line, so we went down the road to another pizza place, but we found coffee, and I took pictures and got content, and back on the road. Monday, I'm going down to see My Machine's doing a porchetta pop-up at, I forget the name of the brewery, but I was like, I want to go support my friend, and then I like put it in the GPS, and it's like a little over 2 hours, and I'm like, dude, who fucking cares? It's 2 hours. I drove fucking 2.5 to get Walter's hot dogs. Like, and then like when I did that, I'm like, man, it's so crazy the amount of times where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then the more I do that, it like breaks the mold of like, oh, that's just driving. And then I'm like, I love being in the van because no one can, like, first of all, I didn't know how it was going to be having that transit. That thing drives awesome. There's so much space, and like, it's like a little cockpit. I have like the metal thing in the back, so it's kind of annoying. I can't go back a little bit, but like, I could take that out. But like, I love driving that van. It is so fun for little road trips. And then like, if I hook the back up, I could do whatever I want in it. But like, it's a 2-hour drive. But some people won't go out of town to go do stuff because they're just like, no.
Like, I drove an hour today to get here.
Yeah.
Because, I live up in the Poconos and on top of the plateau. And I, as a kid, it was 45 minutes to go to the mall, the movies, anywhere, grocery store. I mean, it's 15 minutes to go get a cup of coffee at Wawa's for me, across town. But I know people that never left the mountain.
Yeah.
Or never went to the other side. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes when I drive up there, like I went to my buddy's, got a cabin at Lake Ariel. So I went up there, and then like you drive by some of these houses, and I'm like, what do these people do? Like, do they ever leave? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do they do for a living? They live out here. I like it out that way, man. It's slow. It is not around here. Even like, I don't consider this busy, but like, when we were up there, I was like, man, it's so refreshing not to have like the 248 plazas. And I liked having to drive somewhere, and it was just country and wasn't like traffic and horse shit. And it was, I really, really enjoyed the slow pace out there.
Yeah, it's different. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm enjoying the fact that I, going to the city, because I drove limos for a long time, years ago, trying to get in the limo business and start my own and all that crap. Did
different. You like it?
I enjoyed it, right? Because I never been in the big cities and stuff. Yeah. But you live in the car. You're never out of you can't leave the 40-foot limo parked in Brooklyn, you know, like you just can't do it. So I never got out of the car. And then with this eating, going to New York City, I get out of the car now. I get to walk the streets, and I'm really enjoying the cities.
I love that.
Because, Toronto and, in Houston and Texas, and just getting out and enjoying parts of the cities that I never thought I would enjoy, because I'm the country guy. Like, I want the driveway. I don't want to park on the street. I want, I enjoy not having people or, in traffic. But as I'm getting older now, I'm like, oh, maybe I could do a city apartment or something to live in the city, because you walk downstairs, there's the coffee shop, there's the bodega, there's, the pizza shop, it really just, it changes everything. So I really enjoy that part of it. And now, with all my travel, I'm trying to extend my stays in each place longer.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. When you talked about getting the van or kind of like doing long format travel, I think it would be the next ideal step for you to grow further. And then the content would be endless, because you would just be in new locations, but then you'd be able to stay there. But then if you like somewhere, you can stay longer and not being tied down to anything. Like, I really like the appeal of that. It's kind of how I want to, I guess you would retire from doing the style work, but like that would kind of be my end game, is to just kind of like do a year or two of like long format travel, where if I want to go to New Orleans and then be like, cool, I'll just, like I talked about, like my new thing is like, I really want to get a house in Florida. And then like, I don't know why, I like the idea of being able to get on a plane and being away from everyone and being somewhere warm. Like that to me is very appealing, especially with stress. So then the more I thought about it, I was like, all right, well, what if I put a studio in that bungalow? And then I was like, oh, well, I have enough equipment and the knowledge. And by that point, I would have money to put, it wouldn't be that expensive to put a studio there. And then I was like, well, what if I just went there and then I stayed there for like 2 months, and then I started networking with people in Florida and started doing this in Florida and having people that live in Florida come here like how people do around here. And then I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I could literally do whatever the fuck I want. And then I was just like, man, that would be such an add-on to be able to go out there. But it's also close enough that if I wanted to tell my friends, hey, do you want to get on a plane and go to the Florida bungalow and watch the fights this weekend? Like, it's not that. Then I was like, why have I ever thought that I just needed to live in this town and be anchored down? And then I'm like, well, I can have an apartment here that the studio pays for. And then if I Airbnb'd that place, but also had a studio in it, then I could technically work when I'm out there. And then I could be doing anything I'm out there. And then if you're like, hey, I'm doing this in Florida, I'll be like, cool, we should meet up out there and then do a podcast, and I'll come to your food thing and like, let's collab. And then I was like, there's plenty of people who are trying to do that. And if you find them, you can do a lot of really cool shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, I've seen a couple vans, Sprinter vans, studios, traveling.
Steve-O does that. Steve-O does that. Well, the big thing now is they bring the podcast to locations where they go. Yeah.
I mean, it's just endless. Whatever you want to do, you could do it. If you put your mind to it, do it. Don't, I got 25 years until I retire. Oh, I'm 5 years out. Just go live life.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. I mean, I get, you need a stable income. You need money. Money's not everything, but it just makes life easier.
Because I want to circle back to when you were touching on like, sometimes, you don't get the steak dinner. Do you feel the freedom of being able to do whatever you want has humbled you enough to where, like, because in the beginning, it was always a monetary thing for me, where it was like, I need to make this much to do this. I need to make that much to do that. But then when I got to a point where like I got over the hump and like left my full-time job and started doing this, and then like now it's like I have probably the least amount of money I've ever made in my entire life, but I'm completely content and happy. And like money, it is a thing that I'm learning to go after more, because it's just, I want normal things that other people have. So like I have to build this out more to make more money. But like I never thought that the freedom of doing this for a living and being able to like you could pick up and leave and go do something when you leave here and go get content or paid, or like that freedom has completely unlocked me into thinking differently for the rest of my life.
I have to, I'm right there with you, right? Because I'm not making the money I used to make, but I'm okay with that. I'm humbled.
Stress is down.
Oh, yeah. It's a completely different thing. It's like, oh man, I overslept today. who's going to yell at me? Lupita?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Or sometimes I'll turn my alarm off and be like, I don't want to wake up for an alarm tomorrow.
right. You know, I'll just get up when I get up. Or, you know, like this morning, I couldn't sleep last night. I didn't go to bed till like 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning, you know, and I took a nice nap and now I'm here. But not hitting that schedule, that 9 to 5, you know, punching the clock, right? Like, and when I was younger, I remember in school, I went to like a career builders seminar and like they had different speakers. And I walked into one room and I know the gentleman personally. I've known him since I've been a kid. And, you know, he took a time clock out of his briefcase, you know, and well, he had the time clock on the counter and like he's talking to us and stuff. And he took a hammer out of his briefcase and beat the shit out of that time clock. And he said, you know, when I started at this company I'm at, I was driving the trash truck. Now I own it. And the whole purpose was so I don't have to answer to that clock anymore. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I was just a kid and I knew I had a career and I was like, okay, I got to go, you know, I got to be career driven, you know, 20, 25 years and then I could retire and then I could do whatever I want. And things changed and that career has changed. And I've tried different things since then. And I've owned my own businesses and I've worked for myself and and it's nice making your own schedule. So, you know, I'm not a 9 to 5 schedule anymore. I'm a 24/7 schedule.
Yeah.
You know, I hustle. Maybe it's 2 hours here or 5 hours there. And, you know, I got to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning because I got to do something at 4 o'clock in the morning. But there's other days, I got to be up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because I got something to do at 7 o'clock, you know. So you're just, I like the freedom. You know, there's no, like I answer to myself. You know, I'm not married. I got no kids. You know, I have the dog and myself.
I call that no anchors.
No anchors.
No anchors.
No
That's
anchors.
my summer. So
I like
no
it.
anchors and linen.
Yeah, I like it. No anchors. And you know, people just, you know, are just blown away with what I do. They're like, you know, my money guy, he's like, I don't know how you drive here to Florida and know where to stop to eat all these challenges to make money. And, you know, because I make more money doing food challenges than I do competing. You know, I'm making money competing, but you know, I'm not in the top, you know, 1 or 2 places to make the bigger money. I'm making some money. And, you know, eventually that's my goal to be in the, you know, finishing in the top, but it's a tough, you know, industry and I'm working at it, you know. But just to be able to have that lifestyle, you know, hey, I want to stop in DC, hop on, you know, my buddy's boat, or I want to stay here or there, or, you know, I see some people kind of look at me like, oh, this is crazy. Like, how can you do that? You know, but in the same token, you know, it's just me. Right? Like you can't take it with you when you die, they say. It's okay. She's
A little chewy.
Yeah. Little Chewbacca. So, but yeah, I mean, just the freedom to do what I want to do, you know, I was excited, you know, I'm like, when we booked this podcast, bless you.
Thank you.
Man, it was like a month and a half ago. And I'm like, man, I can't believe it's like a month and a half from now. I got to
Yeah.
wait. And then poof, it's here. Right. And then now, like, you know, the season is, you know, upon us to start, you know, registering. I got to register today actually for a contest in April. And I'm just like, it's here and it's going to start flying. And, you know, it's like, do I want to go to, you know, Florida for the month? Can I make this happen? I've always wanted to go to the Keys. I've been to Miami a couple times, never made it to the Keys. So yeah, maybe I can make it to the Keys this time. And, you know, working with different restaurants and meeting people and networking. And, you know, I have one guy, you know, reached out to me the other day. He's like, oh, I'm working with a celebrity chef. I'm in the Keys, you know, and I'm like, well, I'll be in Florida in April. And he's like, well, come down, you know, we'll make something happen. I'm like, all right. You know, it's just all about it. But like, I've also like, you know, when I drove out to, you know, Louisiana, we're like, okay, let's do, you know, 6 or 7 days, you know, nice road trip. And that's what it seems to be. It's like 7 to 10 days. I you know, drive out and do food challenges, come back 4,000 miles. And it takes about a week, you know, round trip. But I'm like, but if I just stay somewhere for a week longer, I could get so much more content. I can do so much more. But I really don't know what I'm doing until the morning I get up. I start Googling stuff, you know, challenges, looking at things, and it's just a blank slate, you know, canvas. I could do whatever I want today. I could sleep all day in the middle of nowhere.
I love
I could
that,
go hiking
though.
all
I
day.
love that.
Yeah. Or
There
I
is
could
some
go
things
eat
you
all
got to
day.
plan out, but for the most part, I like working. I like creating that way.
Yes. Yeah. So like, well, that's my thing. It's like, oh, okay. You know, the first I have a chicken wing eating contest in Miami. Okay. Now do I leave 6 days earlier to take 6 days to get there? Or do I fly in and fly out? Or do I, you know, take a week to get there or 2 days to get there and take, you know, 10 days to get home? And that's what it's all about. It's just, there's no anchors. Right?
No anchors, baby.
I'm just drifting, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that do you want to pursue the idea of getting a vehicle that you can stay out later? Like what would
definitely
be the plan if you would want to? I mean, we could get into it, but like what would be your ideal situation for like how you see this, you know, the rest of the year or going into the new year with kind of like a new plan of just kind of to get content?
Well, I mean, you know, if the contest, it seems like we have more stuff on the docket on the calendar this year for MLE, you know, eating. Right off the bat, I think we have 6 contests booked, and I could really plan it out that I could be out, you know, a month at a time to, you know, if not longer. And, you know, my goal is, you know, vehicle. I love my vehicle I have now. It's not the most, you know, it's comfortable to get point A to point B. I've slept in it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I could do some different things, but it would be nice to have a little bit more room. I could stretch out on a, you know, king size bed in the back of a van, and, you know, outdoor shower and kitchen.
There's so much stuff to do with all that.
Oh, it's insane. So like, you know, of course, like, you know, I'm looking online, I'm building, you know,
they like the tents that go up on top.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I'm actually thinking about doing that for my Jeep, just so I have a different place to stay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing a tow behind, you know, a teardrop or something. And then I'm like, well, you know, if I liquidate, you know, sell my house and, you know, put all my crap in storage that I want to kind of keep, but I don't really need, but I want to keep it. And I'm like, I could take that money and, you know, buy a decent van. So I'm like, oh, you know, I'm looking at these overland vehicles, $500,000 and this and that. I'm like, oh, that's the dream if I hit the lottery. But then, you know, it's like, oh, I get a Sprinter van, 4-wheel drive. And I built one of those out the other day. And I was like, oh, you know, that's $80,000. And then it's like, well, I could get one done. That's $200,000. And then I'm like, well, maybe I could just need a front wheel drive, you know, Dodge, you know, ProMaster van or something, you know, $30,000, put a couple grand into it. And, you know, it's a start. And then if I do get into the whole overlanding, off grid, living more than I ever done in my life, okay, then I could upgrade and do that in the future. But so like right now, I think, you know, just a little van, a mattress, you know.
Yeah, I'll show you mine before you leave.
Yeah,
so you can see the
I'm
space
excited.
On it. The appeal of that is always because there is room back there, and then when you start like watching YouTube videos on what they can do with solar panels, and like I wasn't even thinking this either, but like I was like, oh well, how, you know, you immediately think, all right, well I can do a blow up mattress in the back or whatnot, but then there's like such creative people doing stuff where like the one company makes a hammock, so you can like pin it from like the one side to the back door, and then I'm like, oh, and then there's like so many people that utilize when the doors are open, like awnings that come over, because like, I mean, I started talking about getting an RV to do like a travel show, but then, you know, it's too much of a, I'd have to have somewhere to put it and then whatnot. And then when I saw the smaller vans and what you can do when the doors are open, like I even said to my buddy, I'm like, yo, we could like roll up the food spots. You know, I said, I have travel equipment. Then I said, we would literally need 2 lawn chairs, and you could do microphones, like, you know, just a basic microphone, you know, and then it's just like you could do so much more. So when you told me that, like my brain was just going where I was like, man, like you could be out in the desert doing stuff at a podcast. You could be doing food stuff. You know, you could set up in the parking lot. Like you could just rip content nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's the goal. So like I thought the same thing, like, oh, I should get like a 30-foot motorhome or a 28-foot motorhome. And then I'm like, man, driving across the country, I'm not getting 25 miles to gallon. Now I'm getting 8 to 10 miles to a gallon. Fuel prices. I'm like, I love your little van. I think it's just too tiny for me.
Yeah,
right?
oh, yeah. You're
You know?
definitely going to need the one up.
Yeah, you know, and you know, I'm looking at different vans, and even like the high roof ones, I can't stand up in. I'm 6'6", you know, so, and I'm like, you know, I see these little bathrooms and showers in them. I'm like, do I need that? Don't I need that? Like, I mean, I've been getting by with, you know, no bathroom in my Jeep, you know, for
Plus,
the
there's
last couple
plenty
years.
of the truck stops that have the bathrooms and stuff.
Truck stops, you know, join, you know, a
Planet Fitness.
Yeah, Planet Fitness, $20 a month.
That was the best advice Zach gave me was, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I left my apartment and I just have the studio, and like the back and forth is killing me. And he's like, dude, I'll tell you how to live like a pirate. He's like, go get a gym membership for $7, and he's like, you can shower there. And I was like, oh shit. And I'm like, I did that for a while, and it was way easier than driving back and forth to my parents.
Oh,
It
sure.
was saving me hours.
But and you get to work out if you want to.
Yes. Yeah. So like there's always an answer. And I mean, you're very similar. The more I get to know you, where, there's people who are problem solvers and people who will figure shit out. And it's like, you're doing this now in a car. Anything bigger than that is going to be a bonus for anything you're doing. So even if you kept it on a small scale and grew it to see if you even like it, you still have now a better means to travel that's just more comfortable. Where if you need to stop at a rest stop, at least you can lay down in the back on an air mattress. Like worst case scenario, you literally just bring an air mattress, blow it up, and then sleep in the back.
Definitely. No, I got the hammocks. I got the air mattresses for the hammocks.
Yeah.
I have no problem sleeping on floors.
I hope it's the direction you go. The minute you said that, I was like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could just be on the road. Now, if you went out to do a compound thing, you can stay in the area. If there's other stuff going on, now you can like look into going places for a food contest and then be like, all right, well, who's out here that'll want a podcast? I mean, you could put it out on your social media and you could probably find anybody in a general area podcasting.
Definitely. I mean, everyone's podcasting these days. And, even last year, my hotel room, 4th of July, I had eaters in and I started filming for my podcast.
Yeah.
I did I went to Badlands Chug's house and we did a segment. And then, I started going, filming for stuff. So I have, in the cloud is insane how much I have, stockpiled and, content. And, if I could just sit down and start going through it.
Yeah.
And
that's
getting
the hardest
it out there.
part. I still have stuff. We did. My deadline is next week, and I'm almost done with it. But it's been over a year. We've been working on this commercial, and then like I got to get my Shopify up just because I'm just done dealing with people coming to pick up sweatshirts that never do it. I mean, those 3 over there, you know what I mean? Like people, hey, I'll buy that. All right, cool, pay me. Well, I'll give it to you when I get there, and then they never show up, and I'm like, cool, that's to pay for the sweatshirts I bought.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So like, there's projects that like it's tough, man. Like, especially if you get into editing and like trying to do it all yourself to save money. Like it's really hard to get to stop, especially with someone like yourself who's got momentum going forward. And I want to go here and let's tackle this. To stop, take a breath, and be like, get into tedious editing and footage. It's not easy to do.
No, not at all. And like, you mentioned merch, right? So like I've done that. I've done like the pre-orders. Okay, give me your money. Let me run around and grab it. I'll write it down.
I wanted to
keep
come
track.
by on Wednesday.
Yeah. And then it's like, I got to order everything.
Will you drive from the Poconos and meet me in a parking lot?
Sure.
And you make $5.
Yeah. And if that is, now I got to mail it to you or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, time is worth money.
Yeah.
And, I've learned that my whole life. Right. So, if it costs a little bit more for something else.
I just learned that.
Well, I mean,
it's tough.
It is very tough.
I do a lot of favors for people, but I also have clients that like will buy shit off me all the time. Like my buddy Sean listens to the show. He comes by. I enjoy that. It's the people I don't know that like waste your time then. And I'm like, dude, like I waited around. That could have been sold already. Cause like I've already had people be like, hey, I want a double XL. Wow, that's shit. I got it aside for this person. Well, they never came to get it. And it's sitting over there now. And it's just like, it's like I have people that I have relationships with, but at the same time, it's like, especially this year, I've been really trying to pay attention to like not wasting time, not like, it's like, it's stupid to say when people are like, time is money, but it is, especially when you get fucking busy and you're trying to build a business while you're running it.
Yeah. I mean, perfect example. Yesterday, I saw a high school friend I haven't seen in a couple of years, and we were talking, and he rebuilt a F-350 or, dually crew cab, all this. And he's like, yeah, I bought the truck wreck for $2,000. I put like $5,000 into it. And I said, that's awesome. But, man hours, you probably put $20,000, $30,000 of your labor into it. And he's like, probably more,
Yeah.
But, the materials cost him $7,000. But what did the time cost him? It didn't cost nothing because it was his time. He did it, but it would have cost him, $20,000 or $30,000. So it makes sense. And he's like, oh, that makes total sense. And, it's just everything. It's time's money.
Yeah.
But, with the merch thing, it's like, now I got a guy, we're going to put a link on my page. He's going to handle everything. I just get a piece of it. I don't want to bother. I don't want to, it's like, okay, they do the artwork. They do everything. They source all the materials, they ship everything. They, quality control and,
Yeah,
customer
that's what I'm looking
service.
for. Shopify or something similar to that.
Yeah.
Because now it's like this whole thing started as a clothing company. I don't have time to run a clothing company. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I
I
hear
started
you.
the podcast, and then the podcast hindered the time for the clothing. And then I'd put out one or two projects that, like, they would kind of go to dead ends or would run into the same problems because I don't have a full time to go into clothing. So
Sure.
it's like I don't want to stop doing clothing. I love merch, and I'd rather it set up where if I don't sell anything, cool, and then I don't lose money because I have 200 T-shirts sitting in the back because it was an idea I thought would work and it didn't.
Right.
Now it's like I'd rather have somebody else handling all that shit so I can still get my merch out there to people, and it's it's exposure having it on other people, but then I don't have the time. So if I have to pay you to do that, cool. I just want a piece of it so it's worthwhile doing.
Exactly. I agree with you on that. And like to sit down with, Badlands Chugs about it. That's how he handles his merch. And, we've talked about merch and, I've done that. I've spent, the $1,000 on shirts and it's like, well, you only sold half of them. Now I got $500 worth of shirts sitting there. Or something happens, you miss the proof.
I still have shirts in the back from when I first started.
It's just sitting there. Like,
20 years ago from when I made them in Virginia. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I made like 100. I made like 5 shirts, and I made like 100 or 200 of each shirt.
Okay.
And I thought that like I would just put them on the internet and they'd sell.
You had a great
I spent
idea.
like 10 grand on a website, all this stuff. I sold shirts, but then you realize we're like my audience.
Right.
Well, how do you get your audience to go out? There wasn't Instagram back then. So then I was going to skate shops, trying to build it organically and whatnot. And then, I always loved Opie and Anthony. So I always wanted to do this. And then when I did this and I saw that 500-600 people listened to the first episode or more, then I was like, those are all people that can buy t-shirts. All right, well, I'll start funneling the t-shirts in. But then this avenue presented more money and more things to do creatively than t-shirts, so I was like, let's stay here. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird getting into the stuff back in the day, but like I didn't know what I was doing with merch. Now I do, and I'm like, cool, somebody else can run that.
Yeah.
I can tell you a million t-shirt ideas all day long. I don't want to miss that opportunity. Cool. Here's an email. Design that. Take your cut. Let's make money together.
Exactly.
I cannot run a clothing company, a podcast studio, and a restaurant and do all this other shit that I'm trying to do.
You don't have enough hands.
No.
It's
No.
there's not enough time in the day.
No.
But it's perfect. That's the biggest thing with my merch guy. He's like, yeah, you get an idea at 2:00 in the morning, shoot us an email. We'll have a rough draft within 24 hours back to you, and we can have it on the website up for sale.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. So, and I'm excited because we have a handful of, ideas and
Especially
stuff.
with the new nickname and the branding.
Oh yeah, we we got the Red Horse of Death, and then with the Compound guys, they're always like Chigger, please.
Yeah,
so we got,
yeah.
Chigger who, Chigger what,
That's
so
fun.
we're gonna play on that. I
Yeah.
mean, I love everyone, and I hate everyone equally.
Yeah. No, that's a funny idea.
Yeah, it's like play on. It's my name. Like, let's get it out there. And those guys tear me apart about it all the time.
Oh,
so,
I'm sure. That's fun. You get to go hang with those guys.
Oh, they're great. Anthony's really cool.
Yeah.
And hang out with him.
He was always my
easygoing,
favorite,
and
him and Jimmy.
And but just Big Al, I love that guy. Seeing the crews from the Opie and Anthony days, and then the Compound Media guys, and Bob Levy, great comedian, old school. His wife's awesome. But man, we have like some great in-depth. We were talking about a rib recipe, and I'm like, oh, you use a smoker, this and that. And he's like, no, I put it in the oven, at 450 for this long, then it goes down to 350 for like this long, and then goes back up to this
That's
long.
crazy. I
And
never
I'm
heard
like,
anyone cook in an oven like that.
I haven't either, but like, man, he was passionate about it. He's
Yeah.
like, man, send me a link. I really want to check out your content. This is really cool. We keep running into each other at the secret shows, and it's like now I'm part of the crew, and
That's dope.
yeah, and then Gino really brought me into the the circle, and then bringing me out to they didn't bring me out to Vegas. I was there. My guys got me to Vegas, but I was able to hang out with the Compound crew and the cabanas and the pre-podcasts and their late shows, and then at the table at night drinking and stuff. And Gino's like, I'll just tell everyone you're my handler, and I'm like, all right, that's cool, whatever. And I turned out to be his handler because like the one night he got a little. I guess it was Friday night after the second show. Like, he was being respectful. He likes to drink a little. But him and Anthony were down at, they were playing blackjack with some of the fans. 3-4 hours. And then that's just when Vegas put the mask mandate back into play. And they were playing like 3-4 hours with no mask. We're all standing around smoking cigars around they had to be 100 of us there. No mask, cigars, drinking. We're having a great time. And, you know, the new dealer came out and she had her little mask on. And it's like, everyone needs to put a mask on. And Gino always wears like a gaiter around his head or whatever. So he went to pull it down. And he's like, you know what? F you. He just like started going off, and like the pit boss said something. He's like, yeah, F you too, you know.
Oh no.
He wasn't maybe so, I'm making it more polite, I guess, you know. And then the pit boss walks away and he grabs the phone, and I walked over to Gino and grabbed him, you know, tapped him on the shoulder. I'm like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, is it? I'm like, oh yeah, it's time to go. And we walked out, and he actually walked out up. You know, he's usually like, oh, I put $100 down, I lose $100, and you know, it's good. He walked out with like up $400 or $500, and he's, you know, in the morning, he's like, whose chips are those? I'm like, they're yours. And he's like, what? I never walk away from the table of chips. I'm like, they threw you away with chips. So
forced chip
exit. So, but I mean, you know, and then now he's like, oh, you're my handler forever. You know, wherever we have a show, you're more than welcome to show up. I'll pay for the airfare.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, all right, cool, man. So, you know, and that's like, that's a lifetime friend, you know, that I just, you know, their booker called me, hey, there's this podcast. Do you want to go do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. And we just hit it off from the get-go. And now we're, you know, traveling together and, you know, doing Vegas together, and they're in Atlantic City next month. And I guess he's in Atlantic City this month too. Well, March. And so we're on the cusp, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's giving me his tour dates and stuff. And he's like, yeah, where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? And, you know, it's just awesome. It's really, it's another avenue. Like, 'cause I don't even have to eat. I just show up, like, you know, and hang out. And then the fans know me from the podcast, because I've been on the podcast a handful of times, and, you know, call in and do different things, or I'm just sitting in the audience and they'll bring me in. So it's just, it's really cool, the networking behind it, and the people and the fans, and just, it all makes it worth it. And it, you know, and you just have to hustle. And I don't like asking anybody for anything. So it really takes me a lot to say, hey, do you want to get on the webpage for X amount of dollars? Or, hey, I'm doing this trip. You know, do you want to sponsor the trip? Jump on there. I got a handful of people. I'm looking for X amount of dollars. You know, do you want to, you know, do it all, or do you want to get a quarter of it? You know, maybe I can get 3 of you guys together to sponsor this trip. And, you know, sometimes you guys suck up the pride and just talk to people. And I've always said it, you know, communication is the key to any relationship.
Yeah.
If you're married, if it's your brother, if it's the principal at your school, you know, you're having a, you know, rough time, you need to talk to people and communicate. And, you know, sometimes you just got to ask for that little extra, you know, because I've done a lot of stuff for nothing.
Yep.
And a lot,
yeah,
you know, and now, you know, but now you know, a lot of my relationships I have with my sponsors and stuff, you know, they're like, George, people are taking advantage of you, you know, what do you need from me today?
Yeah.
And
that
I'm
sucks to find out. When
yeah.
That stuff starts
and I'm
happening.
like, you know, because like I came in and I did lunch. I did a review at a restaurant, and, you know, he's like, what I owe you for today? I'm like, you don't owe me anything, dude. You bought me lunch, you know, thanks. And he's like, no, man. And I said, no, I'll come talk to you in 2 weeks when I need to go to Vegas. Okay. You know, so, but to have those relationships, it's taken a long time to build those relationships. And, you know, I'll give anyone anything I have if you need it. And I've lost a lot over life because of that, because people just, they take. There's a lot of takers out there. So, but be able to communicate and build my brand and build relationships with, you know, all my great sponsors over, you know, the, you know, years, like really, I mean, my hot dog trailer, you know, Sherry's place, man, she's been hooking me up for years with hot dogs, you know, discounted and working with me. And, you know, just over the years, every year it gets better. And I promote her business more and more. And, you know, every time I show up, they're happier to see me. And, you know, they want to know what's going on. They want to see Lupita, like, you know, where have you been? What are you doing? And, you know, it's just a great relationship. But now that relationship, we've been building it. I've been eating at the trailer for 20 years since it's been open. But, you know, we've been practicing hot dogs there, I don't know, what, 7 years now, 6-7 years.
That's nuts.
And it's just amazing, you know, just the relationships and that you build. And, you know, every year they get stronger and better. And, you know, with my sponsors from last year, you know, I picked up a lot of sponsors, the pizza shops and Protocol and, into, we're coming up on the, a year for my webpage now. And it's like, hey, you guys want to renew this stuff? Do you want to do this? I got these trips coming up, and I just got to start hustling and talking and planning and, just putting all the logistics together for, 2022. And that's what I've been kind of working on all winter, in my hibernation state, kind of working behind the scenes to kick this year off strong and hit the road and just, do the best I can.
I'm super, I haven't talked to you in a while. I mean, we go back and forth on the food pages and stuff,
Yeah.
but like for you to come in with the energy and just seeing how much it grew and like where everything's going and the possibilities and like leveling up with the different networking and building those relationships. It's not easy to do any of that. And, you're just such a good person. You deserve everything that you're doing, and the hard work is finally paying off. And I can't wait to see this go further. And anytime you want to do something, especially with the new studio, we already talked. I'm in on whatever you want to do to help push further. And you also love building content, so it'll be a no-brainer. I want to give you a second to kind of plug where anyone could follow, especially the YouTube. The YouTube, because there's so much on there where you can dive down and watch his other food stuff. But then the lives and the Facebook groups and the food group that I'm in with you. I just want to give you time to plug all that. And seriously, thanks for even coming down here and doing this today.
Well, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you, man. And like I've seen you grow over the last year in the leaps and bounds you're going to be making, coming up.
Trying.
And, I met you before your van, before your pop-ups and stuff. So like, you're kicking ass, and just don't stop, man. Keep doing your thing.
I appreciate it, man.
So the biggest thing is just go to chiggereats.com. That'll take you to all my social media platforms.
Best way to do it.
I learned that from this guy,
Best way to do it.
Yeah, that's, I'm like, oh, I need to do this and this and that. And, it's like, no, just go there, because unfortunately, across the social media platforms, I don't have the same tag. Yeah. So the easiest is just chiggereats.com. You mentioned a food group. I started Chigger Eats with Friends on Facebook. Yeah. It's a great group. I think we're, 1,500 people, 2,000 people-ish. But, we're just talking about where we're buying food.
Yep.
How we're preparing the food, where we go out and eat. If we have a favorite server or restaurant or bartender, or if you want to talk about your family recipes, that Aunt Olga used to cook for you when you were a kid or something, and there's a spin on all these recipes because people get in there talking about it. I remember when we first launched the group, we talked about salted potatoes for like a week. I didn't think it was a thing. It's a thing. And I have East Coast people talking to the West Coast people, and then Central, United States is talking about it. And it's just amazing to have this stuff. And then, you could post your bowl of cereal to your 7-course,
yeah, that's what I like about
dining.
it. It's not just like over the top food. It's like sometimes people are just like, hey, this is what I made tonight for dinner, and it's awesome. Or like just simple shit like grilled cheese.
Yeah.
I really wanted grilled cheese.
Definitely. And like it is a private group, and the only reason it's private is because if it's a public group, I can't delete comments. And not that I don't want your comments deleted. It's a positive network. It's a positive place to be. So it's just so I get rid of the Richards and Karens.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of haters out there. When you're doing something that they're not able to do, or they get jealous, man, people come at you. And that's the one issue that I see about social media. There's a lot of hate out there across all the platforms because, the keyboard warriors.
Especially with food too. People will just shit all over.
Yeah. I just had something pop up in my head. A comment today was on a friend's page, his live, and another friend called me immediately like, oh, this person, this person made a comment, and I'm like, oh, he'll rip him apart, because we don't need the Richards and Karens on our pages.
I block people now when they say stupid shit. Even people I know from like there was one guy I worked at a restaurant with, and he always just passive aggressive stupid shit like putting like the laughing emoji when I'm trying to like promote a place, and then the one day. Because it bothers me. Like, I'm like, yo, like, I'm trying to do this shit. Like, what the fuck are you stepping all over? I'm trying to, like, positively get people to go to this restaurant because I like the owner and the food, and then you are going to say dumb shit. And then after he did it, like, 3 or 4 times, I just blocked him. And then now I'm like, oh, that's never going to be in my life again. But I don't like doing that stuff because I don't want to hurt that person's feelings, but my social media is not for you to come in here. Sometimes I'll post food and people will say all this shit and I'll be like, bro, I was just posting food. I wasn't asking for you to tell me how you think it should be cooked or what I did wrong. I just posted a sandwich.
Definitely.
What do you?
Yeah, I mean, we all have opinions, right? Like, and that's the biggest thing I tell people.
I don't say shit on people's. Like, if you posted a hot dog, I'm not like, well, that looks a little undercooked. Like, what are you doing? Like,
well,
get
there's
out of here
haters.
with that
Yeah,
stuff.
because they really want to nitpick things. But, I always say, if you want to post something, post your opinion. If don't post that you hate something, tell us what you hate about it.
Yeah.
Because, maybe the pizza was overcooked for your liking, but maybe I like well done pizzas. You like them.
I do order well done pizzas.
Right. Some people
especially
do, some
if
people
it's
don't.
doughy from a place that I know it's going to be doughy. I'll ask it for well done.
Sure.
I'm not going to shit on them and say it's the worst pizza I ever had because it's not cooked correctly.
Correct.
It's a person cooking it. Ask if they can put it in longer.
Oh, the cheese is too greasy. Well, maybe yeah, exactly. Like there's ways around it, and that's the biggest thing. Is like instead of just shitting on it, explain what you don't like about it. Why you don't like it, and that's your opinion.
Yes.
And somebody else might love that because it's doughy and
greasy
and man, that's the best thing I ever had in my life. Yeah. Well, you're a little kooky because I like it well done, but that's his opinion. So that's communication.
It gets tough with the food.
Oh, it is. Food and people, and then just
it's nice to turn that world off.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What changed with me? Then we'll wrap up. But I the one day I was like, oh, none of that's real. Like Facebook, like the social media, like there's just a created world that's not real. Mm-hmm. Like if you turn that off, you don't hear people arguing and yelling at each other over all this bullshit. I'm like, oh, that's not real. And when I did that, it's changed my perspective on it. Now it's just like if I start getting upset with something, I'm like, bro, this isn't real. Like this isn't real. Like I have people that like. I've seen them argue online and then they come together and they're like, hey, what's up, man? How are you? And like have a beer and don't bring up what they're fighting about. I'm like, you guys are only fighting on the internet? Like, what are you doing? It's not real life. It's crazy, dude.
You can't get punched in the face on the internet.
No, you can't.
It's
you can't.
That's the whole keyboard warrior thing. Like, I want to throw rocks, but I'm going to run behind the car when you stop, or whatever. It's like, so you need to, I don't know. Like, I like what you say, you could turn it off.
Yeah.
And people don't realize to go hiking. That. Yeah. Just get away. I love leaving my phone behind. I used to be
drives.
a fact. Yeah.
Music. Turn it off.
Music. It just, I spend hours in my car and I want to go live every minute I can. But then there's times like, I don't even want to go live. I just want to take in the scenery.
Especially if you do it too much, you get burned out on it.
Yeah.
Like when stories first came up, I was like, you were watching my life. And then like, I stopped doing it and people were like, oh man, that was fun. Like, why don't you do that anymore? And I'm like, I don't have time to document my entire life. Mm-hmm. I like stories and I'll do dumb shit on there, but like documenting my entire, I'm not getting paid to do that. Like this is fucking crazy. And then I'd be like, then when I would be doing something, I noticed myself being like, I gotta do that. Now all I'm doing is not even living and I'm just creating for a world that doesn't exist. I'm out on that.
Oh, sure. I mean, like I sit down and eat dinner and my friend all the time, are you going to take a picture of that? Are you going to post it? I'm like, no, I'm going to eat this and enjoy this. Like, because my food's usually cold by the 100th picture I take.
I've learned how to do it fast. We went out to breakfast and they're like, Michael's going to need to take pictures in it. So I was like, all right. So I took the one, I like rotated it because we were sharing. So I was like, just keep them.
Nice. Yeah. I've figured out some, you learn, you overcome, you adapt.
I stopped caring if people, I used to be embarrassed of like taking pictures in rrestaurants and shit. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. This is my job.
Yeah.
This is my fucking job.
I walk in, I set up 3 tripods, cameras, lights, I did this challenge out in Cincinnati. They got the Cincinnati chili out there and it's like a big plate of spaghetti and they put chili on it and, jalapeno, whatever, the rings or something, like I forget what they're called. But it's like, slices of jalapeno, they deep fry them, throw it on there. And I set up my one light, I'm learning how to use it. It's a new light.
Lighting's not easy to set up.
Oh man, this, there's this, couple of ladies over, a couple booths past me. Oh, that's so bright. And it wasn't even shining towards them. And I'm like, okay, I'll turn it off for now, until my food comes out. I'm like, I'm just trying to film. But, you feel like you're going to take from someone else's experience and stuff. But, like, I'm respectful when I film and take pictures. And it is what it is.
Yeah,
you know?
I just asked people like, I went and there was a cupcake girl, and I can tell like she's been, it's her business. She's younger, and I like took a bunch of pictures, bought food off of her, was like keep the change, and I was like, hey, I'll tag you and everything, and she hit me up and was like, dude, thank you so much.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I just be polite about it and take pictures, but like I'm done caring what people think if I'm walking around taking pictures in a restaurant. I'm like, nah, this is my job now. And then like, because I get pissed if I'm like, I'll be like, you should have got that shot, or like you should have took that picture, or you should have caught that moment. And then the ride home, I'm like, man, why didn't you do that? And I'm like, what? Because I care what other people think. Fuck that.
Fuck them. Just do your thing, man. And thank you again for having me on today. I can sit here and talk forever with you.
No, we'll wrap up. I want to let you got to ride home and the dogs with you.
Yeah.
Like I said, I appreciate it. If you're a first-time listener, first-time watcher, you can go to neveragainstudio.com. That has the podcast, has the apparel, has the sponsor information, anything that you want to do with Never Again, it's on neveragainstudio.com. Subscribe to the YouTube. I'm trying to get the YouTube subscribers up. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll have all the links to his stuff in the bio and everything on the YouTube and whatnot. So go check him out and follow him if you don't already.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank
the
you
time.
for the cigars. You could have smoked that, man.
I know. I was going to. It's all good. It's raw.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.